Oh my God. Okay, people. So, I'm sure I've touched on this before, but I'm going to touch on it again, and I'm going to give you a link to, uh, excuse me, the podcast that I listened to. And apparently, Yaz has experienced people like this in the past who were narcissists and had terrible hygiene. Absolutely terrible hygiene. And one of the things that um, there's a lot of men who are disgusting like that. Some girls are like that. Some women are like that because they weren't taught hygiene either. But a lot of women do have decent hygiene. But men, I don't know what is the deal with them. There's, like I said, women can do it too. But I don't know. Like, excuse me, guys, I'm so tired. It's been a really long day. I mean, I've heard women talk about how men's breath is absolutely horrific. We're talking about toxic men in particular. Um, they won't shower. Narcissistic men are notorious for not showering, for not paying any attention whatsoever to their dental hygiene. Um, they don't, some will take a shower and put dirty clothes right back on. I saw where a woman said, "Oh, excuse me, I'm so tired." The guy that she was seeing at the time, when he would walk across the kitchen floor barefoot, she would have to mop the floor because that's how stank his feet were. If you are seeing anybody who is that disgusting, you need to dump them the second you find out that they're nasty. Because what you see is what you signed up for. And if you stay, that person feels like, hey, I could get worse because you ain't going no damn where. So now I'm not going to brush my teeth. I'm not going to take a shower. I'm going to just rinse myself in warm water, and you're lucky if I do that. I mean, filthy fingernails. And Yaz talked about, oh God. Sorry guys. Yaz talked about the fishy smell. Like they smell fishy and like sweat, and they will spray cologne on their private areas, which is really nasty because you haven't broke out any soap whatsoever, but you gonna spray funk with cologne or perfume. Ew, you straight up nasty. And narcissists and otherwise toxic people do not, they could either be one end of the spectrum or the other end of the spectrum. Okay, they're either really 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 clean and they smell good all the time and they get their nails done, even men, and they're exceptional with their hygiene, or they seem to be the polar opposite, um, where they're just straight up gross. Straight up gross. Their idea of changing shirts is turning the shirt inside out and putting it back on. I mean, that's just nasty. What is wrong with you? Another thing, some kids are not taught how to clean themselves up properly in the bathroom. You're going to be embarrassed when you do it. It's not the most pleasant thing in the world, but you got to teach your kids how to dab the lily after they take a pee or clean their ass after they use the restroom. When I had my stepkids, there was one of them in particular that didn't clean very well. And I had to go through the embarrassing process of trying to teach her how to clean her butt after she, went to the restroom. And she was old enough that she should know that by now. But you would be really surprised, and you might even be shocked at how many adults don't know how to do that. Did your parents teach you absolutely nothing? Why do I have to teach your kid who's old enough to know, way old enough to know better, how to do that? Yaz talks about no matter how many showers they take, they still stink. And she also talked about, how when you're evil, there's an evil scent. When you are a demonic person, there's an evil scent. And I find that interesting because, and it doesn't matter how many, you could shower in pine sol and bleach and ammonia combined and you'll still stink. I find that interesting because people who have died and come back, they died and God taught them a lesson. He showed them hell for some people because they were living the wrong lifestyle. So God showed them hell. And there were a couple of people who I saw their death comeback stories, and they went to hell, and it stunk so bad that it smelled like the worst smell they've ever smelled in their life. They said they can't even describe the stink. And when you have toxic people, Yaz was talking about how some of them are so evil to the core that they smell no matter what they do. They could probably bathe in a soup of pine sol, bleach, and ammonia or whatever, and they'll still stink because they're rotten to the core. And that reminds me of how people describe hell. And how bad it was. Oh, excuse me, guys. I drove long distance today. It was a 4-hour round trip. 2 hours one way, 2 hours the other way, and I'm just tired. So bear with me, please. I've just heard, thankfully I haven't dealt with it. I haven't dealt with funk, with people who are funky, partners who were stank. Thankfully, I never had to deal with that, thankfully. But I do know people's horror stories about dealing with toxic people or narcissists who are so disgusting, and they pride themselves on being funky because they go everywhere like that and they don't really care who gets offended. They don't care who gets offended. I know a friend of mine who has a friend, and he's a guy, his friend is a guy, and his father taught him through example. If you gotta pass gas, you need to do it wherever you are, in a restaurant, in a store. It don't matter, let it rip. And he doesn't give a damn who gets offended. He doesn't give a damn how bad it smells. He doesn't give a damn if he's loud. He does it. How he ever had a son is beyond me, because you just too nasty to even get naked with. It's kind of like a pride thing. Like, see how bad I stink after I toot in public? Isn't that cool? Smells like rotten eggs. Don't you love it? This motherfucker is disgusting, okay? Because his son doesn't have any brains in his head, he copies his father. He's supposed to be a grown-ass man, and he goes out in public and he lets it rip wherever he's at. He copies his father's behavior. So to me, they both are sick in the head because obviously that is unacceptable behavior and you shouldn't be proud of doing things like that. I mean, are you serious right now? Why would you ever get laid? You know what I'm saying? Like, ugh. I've heard women say when they kissed a guy, his mouth smelled horrible, like something died in his mouth. I do believe there can definitely be a demonic component to it for sure. Because people, like I said, people who died went to hell. They smelled the worst stink they've ever smelled in their life. And they heard the screaming and the wailing, the never ending wailing of people that were sent to hell because of, you know, not choosing God as Jesus as your savior and doing whatever the heck you want to do when you want to do it. And oh, well, I don't need to trust God because I am God. And unfortunately, fortunately or whatever, they went straight to hell. The people who are lucky are the ones who died, saw hell, and came back. And it was a wake up call. Their tree got shook and they are determined. I'm not living the life I was living because God showed me something that I hope I never see again. And I never want to smell that smell again because it's rank. So yeah, there's another component that Yaz didn't mention that I also think is possible as well. And this is the reason why a person will stink is because they are screwing everybody, and especially men, because they're going up in people. And some of those people might not be faithful either. And so a woman can have an infection down there, which will cause her to stink. There's nothing that can clean that smell. It has to be treated with medicine. Okay. If she has an infection down there because she's got poor hygiene or she's screwing multiple partners, whatever the case is, you have to have medicine to clear that up. No amount of soap can get rid of the funk. Okay, it's just not going to happen. And you got all these men sticking there, weighing up in everything, everybody. Some of them not using protection at all, which is proof that you got one of them pregnant when you're married to somebody else. Ask me how I know. Anyway, proof that you're not using protection. And, if a woman has bacterial vaginosis, for example, she's going to stink down there. And then a guy sticks his wang up in there and he's going to stink because that bacteria is getting up in his wang. So, I mean, this isn't like the best thing to talk about, but it is some people's reality. And they may be too embarrassed to talk about it, although their partner should be embarrassed about being a funk bucket, but they don't have enough sense. They're disordered in their head. So it doesn't even dawn on them that I shouldn't go out in public like this. I shouldn't walk around like this. I shouldn't be involved with someone romantically and take my clothes off when I stink like this. They don't have enough mental bandwidth to know that that is unacceptable. And they almost, from what I've heard people say, dealing with partners who are disgusting like this, they almost have a sense of pride. They're walking around funky as hell, and they don't care who's offended. They don't care if people whisper behind their back. They don't care if somebody says, "What is that smell?" It's almost like they're carrying it with a sense of pride because they don't do anything to stop it. Look at me, I stink. Yay. Ew. Ew. So some people just have horrible hygiene. They don't know how to clean up in the bathroom. They don't know how to wash their ass. And I've talked about this before. Women in particular have to have, everybody has to have good hygiene in order for you to not offend people's noses. Okay? Okay. Women have their cycle every month. You got to stay on top of that. Okay? You got to stay on top of that. Otherwise, people will know that you're on your cycle, and nobody should know that. Okay, no one should be able to pick up on that. You should be staying on top of it and all of that. So, bottom line is this: if you're dealing with a partner who is nasty, they don't know how to floss their teeth. They don't know how to use an electric toothbrush because a regular toothbrush doesn't really cut it, okay? I'm just telling you. It doesn't clean your teeth properly. It really does not. They don't know how to use a tongue scraper. Okay? A lot of bacteria is in your tongue, and you sticking your tongue all up in everybody's wherever. That's nasty. You having all these deep kisses with people and your mouth smells like a dumpster? Come on. Pull it together. Pull it together. Stop being nasty. Anyway, the split second that you find out that your partner is nasty, you need to dump them. You need to dump them. They will not change their habits. They're not going to change their habits. What you see is who they are. I am not talking about a situation where someone was working construction. They've been working long hours in the hot sun. They smell like, funk because they've been sweating from the minute they got to work to the minute they came home. So obviously they smell. Well, then you get your behind in the shower quickly because ain't nobody trying to smell all that, okay? Or someone played sports, or you know what I mean. There's extenuating circumstances why a person might be a little stronger smelling than usual. But as long as they take care of it as soon as they're able to, as soon as they're home, as soon as, they bust out some suds as quickly as they can, then you got nothing else. You've got nothing to worry about. But there are some people that are disordered in their head. They are not right in their head, and they carry their funk with pride. They're not embarrassed about it. They're not going to change. They're going to, well, they may change. They may get worse over time. And if you thought walking across the floor and you got to mop it was bad, he's going to get to the point where when he walks across the floor, it leaves dirty footprints. That's how nasty his feet are. And it's going to smell like 10 people died in your house at the same time and they decayed. Okay? My question to you is, why are you allowing this in your home? Why are you allowing this in your life? Okay? Why would you allow that? Why would you make exceptions for that? Why would you overlook funk? Because your partner is supposed to protect you. Your partner, especially women, your partner is supposed to look out for you. They're supposed to protect you. How in the hell can he look out for you when he can't even take care of himself? Basic hygiene. He can't even do basic hygiene. How in the hell is he going to take care of you? And why do you want this funky ass person sitting on your furniture, laying on your couch, laying between your sheets? Why do you want that funk in your life? Get rid of them. Get rid of them. There is no reason for that. No reason. No excuse, no reason. And this is where you have to draw the line. You have to draw the line somewhere and say, "Oh no, you grown. You supposed to be grown. I'm not dealing with that. You're not getting in my bed smelling like that. You lost your mind up in here." Okay? And you try to kiss somebody and they smell like a bucket of dead fish that had been sitting outside for a month in the heat of the summer. You done lost everybody. You're just as crazy as that person is because you're staying with them. Don't allow somebody like that in your life. Do not allow them sitting their funky butt on your furniture. Do not allow their funky tail in your bed. Don't allow them in your presence. And there's no excuse for that. There is absolutely no excuse for that. And I don't want to hear nothing about, well, I make sure I run a hot bath for him, a bubble bath for when he comes home from work to make sure he's clean. Do you want a partner or do you want a son? Mm. Because by the time somebody is a grown up, there is absolutely no excuse to be stank, except for medical problems, because certain diseases have a smell. And that smell, unfortunately, permeates the room the person's in. It can permeate the entire house. I know of someone whose mother, was it her mom or her dad? I think it was her mom. She was dying of stomach cancer. And there was a stink of cancer in the room and throughout the house. That is a medical condition that cannot be cleaned away. That is something, that's a disease that, unfortunately, that comes with that scenario. That's not a case of this person don't know what soap is. You can hand them a bar of soap and they just stare at it like, I don't know what this is, okay? That's not that situation. Some medical diseases, especially when a person's dying, it has a sour smell because it's a disease, but that's not something a person has control over. Lack of hygiene, they have control, very much control over that. You dump this person. That should be a hell no for you once you find out that somebody is funktastic and they haven't brushed their teeth decent since probably never. Teeth are more yellow than a stick of butter, and their breath stinks like death. No, 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 no. Stop tolerating this and learn that you deserve better in your life and that you don't need to be a grown person's parent. And you're not going to stop them from being funky. They like it. It's a situation of bad attention to them is better than no attention at all. They're sick. Anybody who does this is sick. Get rid of them. Stop being scared to get rid of people. You want your whole house to smell like I don't know, a bunch of dead bodies that have been laying in the hot sun for 2 weeks, decaying bacteria? You want your whole house to smell like a cemetery? Come on now. Let's pull it together. Like I said, if you tolerate that, you're just as crazy as that person, because no, absolutely no. That's a deal breaker. That's a freaking deal breaker. Don't you dare stay with this person forever. You done lost your mind up in here. Both of y'all need to be in the psych ward. Y'all take care. Much love.